Everybody calls Coachella a music festival, but at this point, it feels more like the influencer Olympics. And this year, it completely spiraled. We're talking influencers publicly begging brands, people getting uninvited at the last second, celebrities getting dragged online, and somehow, even the biggest performer of the weekend ended up dividing the internet. This wasn't just messy, it exposed how the whole system actually works, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. It started with something people couldn't ignore anymore. Influencers were straight up begging.
If there's any brands out there that would like to take a micro-influencer to Coachella weekend 2, please, 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 I'll do it. I've been to Coachella. I'm a pro. I went to Baychella. I was a guest there. I went the year before that. I'm a retired 365 party girl. I literally won't drink or smoke or do anything on that trip. I will just post the best content ever and promote the brand, and I'll have so much fun. And please, 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 I want to go. I want to go so bad.
Not privately, not behind the scenes, but openly on TikTok. Video after video of creators asking brands to take them to Coachella. Some played it off like a joke, but a lot of them clearly meant it. One creator even admitted they had zero pull while asking for invites. Others said they'd promote literally any brand that took them, no questions asked. And then it got even more intense. Someone made a full PowerPoint presentation explaining why a brand should choose them. At that point, it stopped looking confident and started looking desperate.
This is why you, as a brand, should invite me to Coachella from a marketing perspective. And trust me, I will only take a minute of your time. Number one, my engagement goes crazy. This past year alone, I've accumulated 147 million views on TikTok, which is, if I'm correct, about 1/2 of the US population. I've gotten around 11 million likes and 5.5 million profile views. In the last 90 days on Instagram, I've accumulated around 63 million views and have reached almost 12 million individualized accounts. That is just a portion of what I've accumulated on Instagram this past year. I have accumulated so many more views on Instagram than TikTok this year. I can be a huge asset in reaching new target demographics.
What made it hit harder is that many of these creators can actually afford to go. So this wasn't about money, it was about something else entirely. Coachella has quietly turned into one of the biggest content opportunities of the year. Everything posted there performs better. Views spike, engagement goes crazy, and being flown out by a brand isn't just a perk anymore. It's a status symbol. It tells everyone you've made it. But what most people don't realize is those luxury brand trips you see online are not normal. They're rare. The space is more crowded than ever, with too many creators competing for too few spots. So what you're really seeing is pressure. Pressure to stay relevant, to be seen, and to not feel left out. And when everyone is chasing the same thing, things start getting messy fast. Because even if you got invited, that didn't mean you were actually going. This year, multiple influencers shared that they were invited to Coachella by brands, only to be uninvited days later. One creator got the email, got excited, replied, and then suddenly got told, never mind.
So I got invited to Coachella this year with a brand and then uninvited. And I already kind of made a video talking about this, but long story short, they emailed me. I was so excited. I responded. I was like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I had one question about the whole +1 situation, and then they didn't answer my question. And then we kept following up like, hey, what's going on? And then 3 days later, they were like, actually, you're not invited anymore. And I was like, period. Yeah, it did make me feel like a BFL, like a big fat loser, kind of for a second there.
Another influencer received an invite only to realize it was meant for someone else, and the brand just told her to ignore it.
I got uninvited from Camp Push, so let's talk about it. So this all started when I received an email from an account manager at the PR firm that's hosting Camp Push this year. I received this email saying, Camp Push invitation, immediately jumping out of my seat. I'm so excited. This is when shit hit the fan. I was so excited when I first saw the email come through. I didn't actually read it in its entirety. The subject line states, Camp Push invitation for Carolyn Bankston. Me thinking this girl is either going to A, respond and say, oh yes, the invitation was meant for you, sorry for the typo, or B, no, this invitation wasn't meant for you, but we still want you to come anyways. We still want you to come. You're still in our database. You're still on our list for whatever reason. So I get an email back from this account rep at 12:30 in the morning. Immediately open it up. The email says, hi, Kathy. Sorry, this was a mistake. This invitation was obviously meant for Carolyn Bankston. Really appreciate your nice introduction, but please disregard, as this invitation was not intended for you.
No recovery, no apology that fixed anything, just awkward silence. And then there were even more controversial situations, where some creators claimed they were removed because other attendees didn't feel comfortable with them being there.
I got a text message from one of my favorite brands of literally the whole world. And basically they were telling me how they were interested in taking me to Coachella with everything paid for. I'm talking artist passes. And after I got off the phone with them, I was literally so excited and so emotional and just so proud of myself, because going to Coachella, especially with the brand, has always been one of my dreams since I first started making content. They added me to all the group chats of all the influencers that were also going. And then one of my mutuals, who was also invited by the same brand, ended up telling me that they had a whole nother group chat with just the bigger influencers. And turns out that most of the girls were a little disturbed that 2 of my other mutuals and me were going because we were boys. The brand set up a call with me and my 2 other mutuals, and during the call they told us that the girls were explaining to the brand how basically they don't feel comfortable sharing a house with 3 other guys, and we were all gonna have our own rooms. So it's like, literally, what is the issue? But basically the brand told us that they were gonna have to let all 3 of us go, that we would no longer be going on the brand trip. Well, after I was dropped, they did not remove me from the group chat, but this morning I woke up to my phone blowing up. So obviously my curious ass, I was like, what is going on? I opened the chat and turns out that the house that everybody was supposed to stay at actually ended up pulling out, and they no longer have a place to stay. The organizers of this whole event were basically telling the girls that since they no longer have a house to, host the girls at, that they would either have to camp outside with the rest of the people, or that they would literally just have no place to stay.
No warning, no compromise, just dropped. Imagine thinking you made it, just to get removed from a group chat. That kind of thing hits harder than people admit. But the real reason behind all of this chaos might be even worse. The entire system started collapsing because of Airbnb hosts. Reports came out that property owners were canceling bookings at the last minute just to relist them at way higher prices. A house that was booked for one price suddenly came back at 4 or 5 times more. Brands weren't willing to pay that, so trips got canceled, influencers got cut, and plans fell apart overnight.
So you know how a lot of brands have canceled on creators to come to Coachella just days before actual festival itself? Okay, I've been finding out reasons why. The biggest reason, you guys, is actually Airbnbs and houses have been canceling last minute on people out here in Coachella days before to resell their home for 4 times the price. Let's say a brand pays $10K for a house for the weekend. They canceled it, and now the Airbnb is charging $50K for it.
And honestly, that kind of greed perfectly reflects what Coachella has become. Everything revolves around money now. Even the influencers who actually made it there weren't safe from drama. One creator posted that someone who had spread rumors about them was sitting right behind them on the same flight to Coachella. Instead of just enjoying the trip, it turned into content. That's the shift. These experiences aren't about the moment anymore. They're about attention, even if it means creating tension or stirring up drama. At the same time, celebrities weren't having a smooth weekend either. Sabrina Carpenter found herself facing backlash after reacting to a fan during her performance. She heard a sound she didn't recognize and made a joke about it, but the fan later explained it was part of their culture.
If you've never been to Coachella, I can tell you, to go and see the headline performer and be in the very front at the barricade, you have to get there as soon as Coachella opens for the day. So to be at Sabrina Carpenter's set and to be close enough to her for her to hear you, the majority of those people are actually GA. When I went, the majority of it is GA, and on the side it's VIP. So that fan was likely there all day long. You have to miss all the other performers to do that. And for them to say that to you, I know that fan felt stupid. And that's the only thing that I want y'all to take forward when you're thinking about this whole thing with Sabrina Carpenter. She thought she was being funny, I guess. But the minute that somebody tells you something is their culture, like, the only appropriate thing you can do is say, okay, and move on, or whatever it is.
That's when things escalated online. People pointed out that the fan likely waited all day just to be there, only to be called out in front of everyone. Sabrina later responded, saying she didn't understand in the moment and could have handled it better. It became one of those moments that shows how quickly things can turn when you're on a stage that big. But even that got overshadowed by the main event, Justin Bieber. This was supposed to be one of the biggest performances of the entire festival. Fans were expecting something huge, especially with rumors of a massive paycheck behind it. Instead, what they got confused a lot of people. He played his old songs and sang over them, almost like a karaoke-style set. Some people called it lazy and said it didn't live up to the hype. Others saw it completely differently. They felt it was a callback to how he started, posting videos online and building his career from there. To them, it felt personal and nostalgic. So depending on who you ask, it was either disappointing or meaningful. But either way, it got everyone talking. And somehow, one of the strangest details from the weekend had nothing to do with performances at all. It was the food. People noticed that food lines were basically empty, not because there weren't enough options, but because people weren't there to eat. They were there to be seen. Taking photos, creating content, networking, moving from one event to another, that's what mattered. When you step back and look at everything together, it paints a pretty clear picture. Coachella isn't really about music anymore. It's about status. It's about which brand invited you, which parties you got into, and who you were seen with. And when that becomes the focus, everything else starts to shift. You get influencers begging for invites, last-minute cancellations, constant drama, and a culture built around visibility instead of experience. So the real question is this the peak of influencer culture, or is this the moment where it finally starts to fall apart?